Captain Marcus Stone stood frozen in the command center of Lunar Base 7, staring at the impossible sight on his main screen. The ship floating before them shouldn't exist. The UES Prometheus had vanished 20 years ago during humanity's first deep space exploration mission. Everyone assumed it was destroyed somewhere in the void between stars. "Sir, the ship is requesting docking permission," reported Lieutenant Diana Walsh, her voice trembling with disbelief. "The voice claims to be Captain Victoria Cross." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Victoria Cross had been his mentor, the woman who taught him everything about commanding a starship. She should be dead, lost with her crew of 300 brave souls who volunteered for humanity's most dangerous mission. "Put her through," Marcus ordered, his hands shaking slightly. The screen flickered and Victoria's face appeared. Marcus gasped. She looked exactly the same as 20 years ago, not a day older. Her steel-gray eyes held the same determination. But there was something else now, something that made Marcus feel like she could see right through him. "Hello, Marcus," Victoria said with a warm smile. "Permission to come home?" "Victoria, where have you been? We searched for years. What happened to your ship?" Marcus couldn't hide the emotion in his voice. "We found something incredible out there. We need to talk, all of us. Alert Earth Command and the Colonial Council. What we discovered will change everything." Marcus looked at the ship again through his view screen. The Prometheus had changed dramatically. Where once it was a sleek exploration vessel, it now appeared 3 times larger. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and strange patterns of energy danced across its surface like living lightning. "Victoria, your ship. It's different. Our scanners are showing impossible readings. You're generating more power than our entire defense grid. We learned things out there, Marcus. Amazing things. The universe is so much bigger than we ever imagined." Before Marcus could ask more questions, his sensor officer called out urgently, "Captain, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching the system. Multiple ships, unknown configuration. On the tactical display, dozens of vessels appeared at the edge of their solar system. These ships were unlike anything in human records. They were massive crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them." "Sir?" Diana reported, her voice filled with worry. "We're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel." A new voice filled the command center, cold and mechanical. "Primitive humans, surrender the vessel known as Prometheus immediately. The knowledge it carries belongs to the hegemony. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." Victoria's expression hardened. "Marcus, those are the Velthri. They've been hunting us across the galaxy. They're afraid of what humanity might become." "Afraid of us? Why?" "Because we learned to do something they thought was impossible. We learned to evolve beyond our physical limitations. Every human on my ship has been transformed. We can manipulate matter at the atomic level, see across dimensions, and understand the fundamental forces of the universe." Marcus felt overwhelmed. "How many of you are there?" "We started with 300. Now there are 5,000 beings aboard the Prometheus. We rescued survivors from destroyed worlds, beings the Velthri tried to exterminate because they refused to submit to the hegemony's rule." The alien voice came again, more threatening this time. "You have 1 hour to comply. After that, we will begin systematic destruction of your worlds." Victoria stood up on her bridge, and Marcus could see she was no longer entirely human. Her body seemed to shimmer with internal energy, and when she moved, space itself seemed to bend around her. "Marcus, prepare your defenses. It's time humanity took its place among the stars. The age of hiding in our small corner of the galaxy is over." General Patricia Hayes rushed into the war room at Earth Command, her mind racing with the impossible reports flooding in from Lunar Base 7. As head of humanity's defense forces, she had prepared for many scenarios, but nothing like this. "Give me a full report," she ordered, as she took her position at the central command table. Colonel James Park, her intelligence officer, activated the holographic display. "General, the situation is unprecedented. The Prometheus has returned after 20 years, but it's been completely transformed. Captain Cross claims her crew has gained abilities that defy our understanding of physics. And the alien fleet? 67 ships of unknown design. They call themselves the Vielthri hegemony. They're demanding we surrender the Prometheus or face complete annihilation." Patricia studied the tactical display. The alien ships were massive, each one dwarfing humanity's largest battlecruisers. "What's our defensive capability against these vessels?" "Minimal, General. Their energy output suggests weapons technology centuries ahead of ours. If they attack, our fleet wouldn't last an hour." Before Patricia could respond, a new voice spoke from behind them. "That assessment is incorrect, General Hayes." Everyone turned to see a woman standing in the doorway, but something was wrong with the way she looked. She appeared solid, but Patricia could see through her to the wall behind. When the woman moved, she seemed to glide rather than walk. "I'm Dr. Emma Foster," the woman said. "I was the chief science officer aboard the Prometheus. I'm here to help." "You understand what humanity is about to become?" Colonel Park raised his weapon instinctively, but Emma just smiled. "Your bullets would pass right through me, Colonel. I exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously now." "That's impossible," Patricia said, though her scientific training told her to keep an open mind. "Many things that were impossible became possible when we encountered the architects," Emma explained. "They're an ancient race that learned to transcend physical limitations millions of years ago. They've been waiting for a species like humanity for a very long time. Waiting for us. Why?" Emma moved to the holographic display and placed her hand near it. Instantly, the simple tactical map transformed into a complex three-dimensional representation of local space, showing details no human sensor could detect. "Because humanity has a unique gift, General. Most species in the galaxy reach a certain level of development and then stop growing. They become fixed in their thinking, limited by their own preconceptions. But humans never stop adapting, never stop learning. That's what the architects were looking for." Patricia stared at the enhanced display. She could see the Vielthri fleet in incredible detail, including energy patterns and structural weaknesses that weren't visible before. "The Vielthri represent the old way of thinking," Emma continued. "They believe in control through force, in keeping other species weak and dependent. They've destroyed dozens of civilizations that showed potential for growth. And now they want to destroy us. They want to destroy what we've become. But, General, they're not prepared for what humanity can do now." The communication system activated, and Captain Cross's voice filled the room. "General Hayes, this is Victoria Cross. I need you to evacuate all civilian populations from the outer colonies immediately. The Vielthri are about to discover that humanity is no longer the same species they first encountered. Captain Cross, what are you planning? We're going to show them what evolved humans can accomplish. But first, I need to share our gifts with more of our people. Emma, begin the awakening protocol." Dr. Foster nodded and closed her eyes. Suddenly, every human in the room felt a strange sensation, like electricity running through their minds. Patricia gasped as her vision suddenly expanded. She could see energy patterns everywhere, could feel the quantum fluctuations in the air around her. "What's happening to us?" Colonel Park asked, staring at his hands as they began to glow with soft blue light. "You're becoming what humans were always meant to be," Emma replied. "The architects didn't change us. They simply unlocked potential that was already there. Every human has this capacity, but it takes a catalyst to awaken it." Patricia felt her consciousness expanding. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of everyone in the room. More than that, she could feel the vast network of humanity spreading across dozens of worlds. all connected by invisible threads of quantum entanglement. "General," came an urgent report from the communications officer, "the Valkyrie fleet is moving. They're approaching Mars." Patricia looked at the tactical display again, but now she could see so much more. She could perceive the flow of time itself, could see the multiple probability streams of possible futures branching out from this moment. In most of those futures, humanity was destroyed. But in a few bright threads, she saw something else. She saw human ships that moved like living things, human warriors who could reshape matter with their thoughts, and a galaxy where freedom and growth were protected instead of suppressed. "Colonel Park, send a message to all military commanders. Tell them the evolution has begun. Tell them it's time to fight not just for our survival, but for the right of all species to reach their full potential." As the Valkyrie fleet approached their solar system, humanity was transforming into something the galaxy had never seen before. The war that was about to begin would determine not just the fate of one species, but the future of consciousness itself. Admiral Robert Kane stood on the bridge of the battle cruiser Defiance, watching as impossible changes swept through his crew. Half his officers were glowing with internal energy, and his navigator, Lieutenant Sophie Chen, had just announced she could feel the gravitational currents of nearby planets. "Admiral," Sophie said, her eyes now shining with silver light, "I can sense the Valkyrie fleet's approach vector. They're planning to use Jupiter's gravity well to slingshot directly at Earth." "How can you possibly know that?" Robert asked, though he was beginning to accept that the old rules no longer applied. "I can feel the distortions in space-time. It's like reading a map written in the fabric of reality itself." Before Robert could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain Cross's voice filled the bridge. "All human vessels, this is the Prometheus. We're about to engage the Valkyrie fleet. Do not be alarmed by what you're about to witness." Through the viewscreen, Robert watched as the Prometheus began to change. The ship's hull started flowing like liquid, reshaping itself into something that defied conventional design. Sections of the vessel became transparent, revealing interior spaces that were far larger than the ship's exterior dimensions should allow. "Sir," reported Commander Lisa Zhang, the ship's tactical officer, "the Prometheus is generating an energy field. Unlike anything in our databases, it's affecting local space-time in ways I can't begin to explain." Suddenly, the Valkyrie fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter. Robert counted 67 massive crystalline vessels, each one bristling with weapons that could level continents. The lead ship immediately began broadcasting. "Humans, your time has expired. Surrender the corrupted vessel immediately or face extinction." Captain Cross responded with calm confidence. "I am Captain Victoria Cross of the Terran Exploration Service. You are trespassing in human space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." The Valkyrie commander's laughter was like grinding metal. "You dare threaten the hegemony? You're primitive. Weapons cannot harm our ships." "You're right," Victoria replied. "Our old weapons can't harm you, but we're not using old weapons anymore." The Prometheus suddenly vanished from Robert's senses. One moment it was there, the next it had simply disappeared. Before anyone could react, the ship reappeared directly in the middle of the Valkyrie formation. "Impossible," breathed Commander Zhang. "No ship can move like that." "We're not bound by the old limitations anymore," came Victoria's voice. "We've learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can step outside normal space-time whenever we choose." The Valkyrie fleet immediately opened fire. Beams of destructive energy that could shatter moons struck the Prometheus from all sides. But instead of being destroyed, the human ship seemed to absorb the attacks. Its crystalline hull grew brighter and more complex with each hit. "They're feeding our energy back to us," the Valkyrie commander snarled. "How is this possible?" "We learned from the architects that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed," Victoria explained. "Thank you for charging our weapons." The Prometheus began to pulse with incredible power. When it released that energy, it wasn't in the form of traditional weapons. Instead, waves of transformative force swept across the Valkyrie fleet. Where the energy touched the alien ships, their crystalline hulls began to change, becoming more complex and beautiful. "What are you doing to us?" the Valkyrie commander demanded, his voice filled with panic. "We're offering you the same gift the architects gave us," Victoria replied. "The chance to evolve beyond your current limitations. The chance to become something greater." Robert watched in amazement as the Valkyrie ships began to transform. The rigid, militaristic designs softened and became more organic. Through his enhanced senses, he could feel the consciousness of the alien crews expanding, their minds opening to possibilities they had never imagined. But not all of the Valkyrie were ready for transformation. Several ships at the rear of the formation broke away and began retreating toward the edge of the system. "Let them go," Victoria ordered, as some of the transformed Valkyrie ships moved to pursue. "They need time to process what they've witnessed. They'll return when they're ready." The Valkyrie commander's ship was the last to be affected by the transformation wave. When the energy reached him, Robert heard the alien's voice change from mechanical coldness to something filled with wonder. I can see everything, the connections between all living things, the flow of consciousness through the galaxy. How did we become so blind?" "It happens to many species," Victoria replied gently. "The fear of change, the desire for control. It closes minds and hearts. But it's never too late to grow." Admiral Kane realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. In galactic history, instead of destroying their enemies, humanity had transformed them into allies. The Valkyrie hegemony, one of the galaxy's most feared military powers, had just become partners in humanity's vision of universal evolution. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice filled with excitement, "I'm detecting similar transformation waves spreading throughout the galaxy. Other human ships are encountering different alien fleets, and the same thing is happening. Species that have been enemies for millennia are suddenly working together." Robert smiled as he felt his own consciousness continue to expand. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had started a revolution that would reshape the entire galaxy. The old age of conquest and domination was ending, and a new era of cooperation and growth was beginning. President Catherine Mills stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of worlds. The massive chamber on the neutral station of Nexus Prime buzzed with tension and confusion as reports flooded in from across known space. "Order! We will have order!" shouted Chancellor Vexis, the ancient Kothani who had led the council for 3 centuries. His forearms gestured frantically as he tried to control the chaos. Ambassador Julia Torres, humanity's representative to the council, stood calmly at the center of the storm. Unlike the panicked aliens around her, she radiated a sense of peace and confidence that seemed to affect everyone near her. "Honored members," Julia said, her voice somehow reaching every corner of the vast chamber despite speaking normally. "I understand your concerns. Yes, humanity has changed. Yes, we've shared our transformation with others. But we've come here today to explain why this is the greatest opportunity in galactic history." "Opportunity!" screeched the Zephyrian delegate, his crystalline body flashing angry red colors. "Your species has infected dozens of our fleets with some form of mind control. Our ships no longer obey their commanders." "They obey their commanders perfectly," Julia replied patiently. "The difference is that their commanders now understand there are better ways to achieve their goals than through force and intimidation." President Mills watched from the observation gallery as Julia activated a holographic display. The image showed the current state of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light representing different worlds and fleets. What you're seeing, Julia explained, is the natural spread of conscious evolution. Every species that has encountered our transformed humans has been offered the same choice: remain limited by old patterns of thinking or expand into something greater. And if they refuse, demanded the hegemony's new representative, though his tone was curious rather than threatening. This Velthri had been among those transformed in the first encounter. Then they remain exactly as they are, Julia said simply. We don't force change on anyone, but we do offer it freely to all who are ready. Chancellor Vexis slammed his gavel repeatedly. This is an abomination. The natural order of the galaxy has been maintained for millennia. Species have their roles, their limitations. What you're proposing would lead to chaos. With respect, Chancellor, came a new voice from the chamber entrance. The old order wasn't working very well. Everyone turned to see Captain Victoria Cross entering the chamber, but she wasn't alone. Behind her walked representatives from dozens of species, all clearly transformed by the same process that had changed humanity. There were Zephyrians, whose crystal bodies now pulsed with rainbow light, Korthani, whose four arms moved in perfect harmony as they manipulated local gravity, fields, and even some Vilthri, whose mechanical precision had been enhanced by organic creativity. Captain Cross, Chancellor Vexis said coldly, you were not invited to address this council. Actually, Victoria replied with a gentle smile, I was invited by every species represented here, not by their governments but by their people. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show communication networks spanning the galaxy. While we've been talking in this chamber, something beautiful has been happening. Individuals from every world, every species, have been reaching out to each other. They're sharing ideas, collaborating on solutions to problems that have plagued their civilizations for generations. President Mills leaned forward in her seat as the display showed amazing examples. Scientists from hostile species working together to cure diseases that had killed billions. Artists from different worlds creating beauty that transcended any single cultural perspective. Engineers combining technologies in ways that made interstellar travel as easy as walking across a room. The Zephyrian delegate mentioned that ships no longer obey their commanders. Victoria continued. That's because those ships' crews have realized there are better things to do than patrol borders and prepare for wars. They're exploring, learning, creating. This is madness, Chancellor Vexis declared. Without central authority, without the traditional hierarchies, everything will collapse. Will it? Asked Dr. Emma Foster, materializing seemingly from nowhere beside Victoria. Her ability to phase between dimensions never failed to startle the council members. Let me show you what's really happening. The holographic display shifted to show real-time images from across the galaxy. Instead of chaos, it revealed unprecedented cooperation. Worlds that had been enemies for centuries were now sharing resources. Species that had never been able to communicate were finding common ground through their expanded consciousness. The old systems of control weren't maintaining order, Emma explained. They were maintaining stagnation, fear of change, fear of losing power, fear of others becoming too strong. These fears kept the galaxy trapped in cycles of conflict and limitation. Julia stepped forward again. Honored members, we're not here to threaten anyone or force change on those who aren't ready. We're here to offer partnership in building something better, a galaxy where every species can reach its full potential, where conflicts are resolved through understanding rather than force. And if we refuse, asked the draconian ambassador, his serpentine form coiled defensively, then you continue exactly as you are, Victoria replied. But you'll find it increasingly difficult to maintain old patterns when surrounded by species that have moved beyond them. President Mills felt a surge of pride as she watched her fellow humans handle this crucial moment. They weren't conquering or dominating. They were inspiring and inviting. Chancellor Vexis looked around the chamber, realizing that many of the delegates were listening to the humans with growing interest rather than fear. "This session is adjourned," he declared. "The Council will consider these proposals." As the delegates began to file out, many approached Julia and Victoria directly. President Mills could see the change happening in real time. Fear was giving way to curiosity, suspicion to hope. The galactic transformation wasn't being imposed from above. It was spreading naturally, one consciousness at a time, as beings across the galaxy discovered they were capable of so much more than they had ever imagined. Part 5. The New Empire of Mind 5, years after the first contact with the transformed. Prometheus, Fleet Admiral Jackson Torres, stood on the observation deck of the Terran flagship Evolution, gazing out at the most extraordinary sight in galactic history. Surrounding Earth were not just human ships, but vessels from over 300 different species, all working together as part of the new Terran cooperative. "Admiral," reported Captain Nina Volkov, her enhanced awareness allowing her to process information from dozens of sources simultaneously. "The final resistance strongholds in the Outer Rim have agreed to negotiations. The last of the old warlord fleets are ready to discuss joining the cooperative." Jackson nodded, though his attention was focused on something more profound than military reports. Through his expanded consciousness, he could feel the thoughts and emotions of billions of beings across the galaxy, all connected through the quantum network that had emerged from humanity's transformation. "It's remarkable," he said to Dr. Emma Foster, who had materialized beside him in her typical fashion. "When we first encountered the Valkyrie, I thought we were facing humanity's greatest challenge. I never imagined we were taking the first step towards something like this." Emma smiled, her form shifting slightly as she existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "The architects told us this would happen. They said that once a species learns to transcend its limitations, the change spreads exponentially, not through force but through example." The door to the observation deck opened, and President Catherine Mills entered, accompanied by an unusual delegation. There was Zextai, the former Valkyrie commander, who now served as the cooperative's military advisor. Next to him walked Harmony of Distant Songs, a crystalline being who had become one of the galaxy's most innovative engineers. Behind them came representatives from dozens of other species, all transformed by their contact with evolved humanity. "Admiral Torres," President Mills said, "we're ready to begin the ceremony." Jackson turned to face the assembled group. Today marked the 5th anniversary of what historians were already calling the Great Awakening, and beings from across the galaxy had gathered to celebrate not just humanity's transformation, but the birth of a truly cooperative galactic civilization. "Before we begin," Jackson said, "I want everyone to understand what we've really accomplished. We didn't conquer the galaxy. We didn't impose human rule on other species. Instead, we offered every being in the galaxy the chance to become the best version of themselves." Captain Volkov activated the communication system, linking their ceremony to similar gatherings on thousands of worlds. "The results speak for themselves," she announced. "Galactic crime rates have dropped to virtually zero. Interspecies wars have become a thing of the past. Scientific advancement has accelerated beyond our wildest dreams." Zextai stepped forward, his transformed features showing both his Valkyrie heritage and the changes that came with conscious evolution. "5 years ago, my people believed that order came through domination. We thought that keeping other species weak made us strong. We were wrong." His voice carried across the quantum network to every listening being in the galaxy. "True strength comes from helping others reach their potential. True security comes from cooperation, not control. The humans didn't defeat us in battle. They showed us a better way to live. Harmony of distant songs resonated with musical tones that translated as deep emotion in every language. My people were trapped in crystal caves for millennia, afraid to venture into space because we thought we were too different from other species. The transformed humans taught us that difference is not a barrier, it's a gift to be shared. Dr. Foster gestured to the holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Instead of the traditional map showing territorial boundaries and military positions, this display revealed something unprecedented, a living network of consciousness that connected every transformed being across space. What you're seeing, Emma explained, is the emergence of the galaxy's first truly collective intelligence. Not a hive mind that eliminates individuality, but a network that enhances each person's unique gifts while allowing them to contribute to something greater. President Mills stepped forward to address the galaxy-wide audience. 5 years ago, humanity was a small species confined to a few dozen worlds, considered insignificant by the galaxy's major powers. Today, we stand not as conquerors, but as partners in the greatest transformation in galactic history. She paused, feeling the attention of billions of minds focused on her words. We call this the Terran Cooperative, but it's not really about Earth or humans anymore. It's about the principle that every conscious being has unlimited potential, and that we all become stronger when we help each other grow. Jackson felt a familiar presence in his mind and smiled. Captain Cross, would you like to address the galaxy? Victoria's voice came through the quantum network, speaking directly to every transformed consciousness simultaneously. My friends, when we first left Earth 25 years ago, we were explorers seeking knowledge. We found something far greater than information. We found the key to transcending the limitations that have held back galactic civilization for millions of years. Her words carried emotional resonance that touched every listener. The old galaxy was built on fear, fear of others, fear of change, fear of losing control. The new galaxy we're building together is founded on love, love of growth, love of discovery, love of helping others reach their full potential. As the ceremony concluded, Jackson reflected on the amazing journey that had brought them to this point. Humanity had indeed become an empire, but not the kind built through conquest and domination. The Terran Cooperative was an empire of consciousness, a voluntary association of beings who had chosen growth over stagnation, cooperation over conflict. Looking out at the mixed fleet surrounding Earth, with human ships flying alongside vessels from hundreds of other worlds, Jackson knew they had achieved something that would reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. They had proven that evolution wasn't just biological, it was conscious, intentional, and unlimited. The age of the old galactic order was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun.